He was forced to stand by the door, humiliated under the mocking gaze of a waiter who loudly declared to everyone, "People with those views aren't welcome here." The bright red MAGA hat on his head seemed to scorch the eyes of those around him, like a symbol they couldn't bear to see. But none of them suspected that this unwelcome guest already owned every table, every plate, and every drop of wine in the restaurant. What happened next taught the staff a lesson they would never forget. A distinguished man, George Harper, walked into the trendy restaurant Gourmet Haven. Dressed in a sharp suit, he immediately drew attention with his bright red MAGA hat. Customers began whispering among themselves, and Tom, a young waiter with tattoos and a nose ring, frowned in visible disapproval. George took a seat in the corner and calmly opened the menu. Tom, with a demonstrative scoff, approached him, speaking in a frosty tone. "Excuse me, sir, but we reserve the right to refuse service." George raised an eyebrow, surprised. "For what reason?" "Your hat. It offends our customers and staff," Tom snapped curtly. The customers at nearby tables chuckled, their whispers growing louder. George remained composed. "I was just looking to have lunch. Is that a problem?" Tom crossed his arms and, with a smug grin, declared loudly, "If you want to eat, take off the hat. Otherwise, you can leave." Laughter erupted from the tables around them. George, calm as ever, quietly replied, "Very well, then I suppose I'll contact the owner." George took out his phone, but Tom, emboldened by the customer's support, decided to escalate. He handed George a bill labeled for ruining the atmosphere, including a $50 charge for emotional distress. "Here's your bill, sir. We have to think of our guests," Tom said, tossing the paper onto the table in front of George. Some customers began clapping, supporting the waiter. George smiled faintly, as if unfazed, and simply said, "Understood. Let's see what the owner has to say about this." Tom smirked. "Go ahead. Call him. You think he'll waste time on you?" Without another word, George stood up and left, leaving behind a surprised Tom and the laughing crowd. An hour later, George returned to the restaurant, but this time he wasn't alone. Accompanying him were a representative from a legal firm and the restaurant's manager, who looked as if he had seen a ghost. "What's going on here?" George asked, removing his hat and revealing his face to everyone present. "I believe we need to discuss your staff's behavior." The manager threw a panicked glance at Tom, whose face turned pale. Meanwhile, George pulled out a set of documents and placed them on the counter. "For those unaware, I'm George Harper, the owner of Gourmet Haven, and I'd like to know why my establishment is turning customers away based on their political beliefs." Tom stammered, trying to explain, but his words tangled. I didn't know. I thought..." George's icy gaze cut him off. "You didn't know, but now you do." The next morning, Gourmet Haven became the center of social media discussions. A video of Tom's public apology, recorded under George's direction, went viral. In the video, Tom apologized to all customers for his prejudice and announced his resignation. Left alone with the manager, George added, "This incident will serve as an example for everyone. Political beliefs are not grounds for discrimination. We must rise above that." The manager nodded solemnly, and George smirked. "And by the way, dinner tonight is on the house for anyone wearing a MAGA hat." The story concluded with a resounding moral victory. Tom lost his job, while George walked away with an enhanced reputation and newfound respect.